Take two. Greetings and salutations, boys and girls. This is a video about CDs. I have been collecting CDs for nearly 40 years, and recently I have become more interested in them than I have been in a while. Most of the videos about audio I post are about records. But shortly after the first of the year, I decided to buy myself a box of CD cases because some of these were in really bad shape, and I embarked upon a project about 3 weeks ago to inspect and clean all of these CDs. It hadn't been done in 25 years. So I have gone through all of this. They've all been cleaned, and those that needed it have new cases. So over here in this rack, this is all country music because I'm working for a country music radio station, and I have rebuilt the library. And a lot of that came from those discs you see right there. This stuff, all of it, is rock, pop, jazz, every other genre besides country. I don't know how many are here. But it took me about 3 or 4 days to go through all of them and clean them. And to clean CDs, it couldn't be easier. Get yourself a bowl or a pan that you can put about a quart of water in, and put some lukewarm water in there. Put 1 drop of dishwashing liquid in there, just regular dish soap. Get you some microfiber towels, dunk the disc, and then wipe it off dry, and then put it back in the case. That's it. That'll get rid of all the grime and fingerprints and anything that may collect on the disc. And your CD player will thank you, because if you put clean discs in it, then you're not slinging bits of debris around inside the machine, which will screw things up. So I'm going to put you on a tripod, and I'm going to take you on a little journey through my beginnings with CDs nearly 40 years ago. We have a nice little thunderstorm going on, so if you hear that in the background, that's what it is. But that kind of makes it cool, actually. So the first CD to ever be released commercially, way back, I believe it was very early 1983, is this one right here. This is Billy Joel's 52nd Street. So this is DIDX number 1. DIDX is an index that Sony used to keep track of the CDs that they pressed. Sometimes on early discs you'll see those numbers. This is number 1. Phil Ramone, who produced this album, went to Japan to transfer it to digital himself. The second CD ever released? Why, Billy Joel's The Stranger, of course. This is DIDX number 2. And both of these are very early pressings. These are not original Japanese pressings. They are American, but they are both dating from sometime in 1984, which means that they are very early and they sound very original. And one of the ways that you can tell if you have a Columbia CD that was pressed in America when they first opened up the plant here in America is that you'll see that little symbol right there. See it right here? Let me see if I can get up here. See what you can see. See that right there? I wondered what that was for years. That is an internal little blip that Columbia put on their records. It means that the disc was issued in Japan, and it was also issued in the United States with the same catalog number. And also, they started advertising the fact that the CDs were made in the USA. Some do, some don't. The original CDs, there were 2 factories in the world. There was one in Japan that was run by Sony, and the other one was in West Germany. Of course, that's the Philips side of the CD thing. The CD format was developed by Sony and Philips together, working very closely with Columbia Records. And so that's the very beginnings. You can go look at that. Technology Connections has a wonderful series of videos about CDs, and he tells you how everything works. So this is the first album that I actually heard from a CD, and I didn't hear it live. I heard it on the radio. We had a local radio station that got a CD player and started to get discs, and on Sunday evenings they started a show where they would play the newest CD releases, and this is the first thing I heard, and that would have been summer of 1983. And it blew my mind because it was so clean. It was unbelievable. Even I was listening on the radio, I could tell it sounded special. This copy of Glass Houses, by the way, is not an original pressing. This is a late 80s pressing of the album, but sounds good nonetheless. The first CD I ever heard in person, I went to a friend's house, and he had this particular compilation disc. This is Arista's Perfect 10. This is not the original disc that I heard, the one that he had. I picked up a copy later, but this is also a very early CD. This is 1984, and the tunes on here are hot hits of 83, so this would have been really late 83, 84 when this was issued. You can look that up and see for yourself. First CD I ever owned, Donald Fagen's The Nightfly, and I got this in 1984. It was a gift from a friend, the same friend that had this CD player. So he bought me a CD before I had a CD player. What a nice guy, right? So I finally got one. But this is a 1983 original pressing of Donald Fagen's The Nightfly. This is a Target disc. Target CDs are discs that were released by the Warner Group, which is Warner Atlantic and Elektra, WEA. Sometimes they're known by that title around the world, and they have these distinctive labels on them, and they're quite collectible these days. I have just recently found out. I have had this CD for 40 years. Got another Target disc for you. This is one that I just got, actually. Been buying CDs, because when I went through and cleaned all the CDs, I made some room. I just want to make sure I get this right side up. And yes, I do. I got it right. Okay. This is one of my very favorite albums of all time. This was released in late 1983. This is Yes, 90125. This is also one of the first CDs I heard all the way through. I believe on the same radio station, WNOR, played this. And I had a reissue of this disc that I bought in the early 90s, which turned out to sound pretty much identical to the original 1983 here, but I wanted it, so I went and found it on eBay and got a pretty good deal on it. These discs go for a bit of money. I mean, you can pay $30 or $40 for one of these early Target CDs, and this one's not in perfect shape. I doubt the phone will pick it up, but it has a few scratchies on it. I don't care, as long as they play. CDs have very strong error correction. It'll be fine. There's a couple of more first pressing discs to talk about here. This is Dave Brubeck, and this is the album Time Out, which is mislabeled. Let's see if you can see this. See if you look very closely here. It doesn't say Time Out, it says Take 5. And this is the first time that this album appeared on CD, and to my ears, believe it or not, this sounds better than all of the subsequent re-releases. I have the Jazz Masters release of this, which was a quote-unquote audiophile pressing, and on that one, there's distortion in the right channel all the way through the album. I don't know where it comes from, but on this one, it's not as pronounced, and later remasters I'm not terribly interested in. We're going to talk about that a little bit coming up. And there's another one I just picked up. I was going through my Bruce Springsteen collection. Yes, I am a fan. And I had a couple of reissues that were from the early 2000s. They look very similar to the original CD, but they are different, and they tweaked the sound just the tiniest bit. And I really want to get back to that original sound. I want to know what they sounded like when they first came out, the first issues here. So this one is an original 1984, born in the USA, first edition, made in Japan. It says so on the disc here. You'll notice there's no little triangle in a circle. This is as original as it gets. This disc that I'm holding in my hand is in almost perfect condition. I don't know where it's been for 40 years. Somebody took excellent care of it. And it sounds amazing. It's so crisp and clean. And I compared that Yes CD that we were just talking about to the reissue. And I have to give credit where credit is due. Atlantic Records really didn't mess with it through the years. They didn't feel the need to tweak it or whatever. It sounded pretty similar to the original. Maybe the original Target CD that I just showed you was just a tad bit crisper. But Born in the USA, oh my goodness. You really want an early 80s pressing of that. It's so dynamic. I want to take a moment and show you my current CD player. Actually, I have two of them. The one up top here is a CD recorder. I did a whole video about this some time back, and it's made by Tascam. It is the RW900. This is a Mark II. And this will record CDs, any kind of CD you put in there, CDR, CDRW, CDR music, whatever. And it also will play back just about anything. And my daily player is this lovely Sony CD player from the early 2000s. This dates from about 2003. And I don't know how much you can see on this video, but it's a very cool machine. And it's a 5-disc CD changer. I can't remember the exact serial number on this. Let me see if I can figure it out. I blanked out and couldn't remember the exact model number on that, and I just pulled out my manual here. This is the CDP CE275. So the manual I have sitting right up here, just in case I ever want to use any of the programming functions that I never can remember how to use. The manual for the CD recorder is awful thick as well. This CD player has an optical output, and it goes into this so I can copy from CD to burn to CD. And I also like to use the DAC that's built into this particular CD player because it sounds good. And it's really funny because I was doing some research and I was looking at the DACs in these machines, trying to learn more since I have kind of gotten back into the CD thing. And I found out that the DAC that's in this one is a 2496 DAC that can also record, of course, since it's a CD recorder. It's made by KMA, and it's part of their Velvet Sound series. And I also found some guy in some group somewhere that was just tearing it up, saying it was the worst sounding thing he ever heard, some audiophile dude. And interestingly enough, he was comparing it to the 1-bit DAC that's in this machine, which is... it's a 1-bit super high linearity Sony designed DAC that actually sounds pretty good. This machine, a lot of the times if I'm listening, I'll just listen to the analog output, but it's kind of neat to put it through this DAC. And I think what the guy was hearing was the fact that the more modern DAC and the fact that it's doing some really big oversampling, it has more meat to it than what you hear out of this. Not to say that this sounds bad. We're talking about a super tiny little difference. These Sony CD players had good DACs in them. So yes, this is what I'm into these days. It's what I'm doing. And I would suggest that if you were thinking about getting back into CD, and there are people who are, because I can see it in the marketplace, people are buying them. There's a bunch of CD players on the market right now. All of the modern CD players look really foo-foo to me. They look like they wouldn't last very long. And if you go read the negative comments, even on the Denons that are selling for $600, people say they get them, and a month later they start to skip and they mess up. And that's because of the cheap Chinese transports they're using in these things these days, which is really sad. So at this point, I think that if you're trying to look for a CD player, you need to either shell out a whole lot of money and get like one of these quote-unquote professional machines up here that Tascam makes. Even if you don't like the DAC that's in this machine, you can always hook your own DAC up to it, because this has inputs and outputs, both optical and coaxial. This is just an optical output. One of the things I love about this machine is just being able to throw a whole bunch of discs in and let them play, and I just like the mechanical thing about it. And one of the things that this machine will do, which I think is really cool, and yes, it's playing, I don't know if you can hear that, but I don't want to get a copyright match, is that once you put discs in, you can push a button here, get over here where people can see it. I'm sorry, my camera work is sucking because I'm holding it, and you can exchange the CDs. right? I can add more discs, take more discs out, so I can see all the discs in the machine that are not playing while the machine is playing. Move things around. It's crazy. So anyhow, I just figured it would be fun to kind of show you guys what I've been into lately and talk a bit about it. Most of my videos are about turntables and things, but I'm kind of giving that a break and giving the CDs some love. And of course the question always comes up, which sounds better? Records sound so much better than CDs. Why would you even bother with CDs? It's like, I really don't want to get into that debate. What I will say about it is that they are different, and CDs have their limitations, but they're fun, and they're collectible, and they're little chunks of art, and they're a big part of my childhood. Like, I salivated over this disc when I was a kid. I wanted this so bad, and these were expensive back in the 80s. These were what was it? They were $18.95 or something like that. That was a big chunk of change for a 13, 14-year-old kid back in the mid-80s, man. So you had to save up for these things. And of course, now you can go on eBay and buy whatever you want, and it costs about as much as a cup of coffee at Starbucks. Come on, folks. Cheap thrills, and it's fun. And guess what? These discs that I've been showing you, they've lasted 40 years, and they're not in perfect condition. They haven't always been handled perfectly, okay? But yet they have lasted, and they're playing right now. The CD that was playing in that machine, that's, 41 years old? It came out in 83. So that says a lot. I mean, all of this stuff about digital files, you guys got to keep in mind, what are you storing them on? Hard drives, flash drives, SSDs? That's all active media that needs to be plugged into some sort of power source or machine to work. And not only that, flash memory fades over time if it's not powered up. Part of the thing that the SSD drives do, and even your little thumb drive, is they check to see whether the data that's stored there is integral, and if not, it'll rewrite it to make sure it'll boost it, because it's just an electric charge. That's all that's holding on to that audio. There's nothing physically there, or audio rather, but the data, even if it's data that reflects audio, you know what I mean. And what about a spinning hard drive? Well, that's a little better. The hard drive companies say that if you have a spinning hard drive and you write something on it, that it'll last about 10 years. In other words, if you wrote the drive, put it up in a closet, and put it away, you can expect it to be there in 10 years. But still, it's an active thing. It's got electronic components in it and microchips, and those things fail, and one day it's just going to quit. As long as you take care of these are proving that they're going to last a long time. I mean, every disc in this machine is 40 years old and plays like the day it was new. So that's pretty cool. Love to hear what you have to say. Comments, suggestions, whatever. Throw them down there. I just figured I would put something up and let you guys know what I was into these days. Thank you for watching the Shaky Cam vid. I appreciate it. We'll do something cool somewhere down the road. Talk to you again soon.